the Foundation tab, you're going to see a little bit of a different layout here and some more options. So this is where, when you first come into Excel, you open up Excel and you can log in and then hop over to the Winshuttle Foundation tab, and you're going to open a template if you'd like. You can check the status of a template. Is it approved for production? Things of that nature. And then you can also manage your workflow tasks from this task button here. If you are utilizing auto post, or perhaps just a single step review and post, if anything failed during those runs, you would get a message back in this outbox section. If you go to submit a data file for approval in Foundation, you can add additional supporting documents with this button, the input files button, and you can also submit to Foundation for approval with the submit to Foundation button, which will invoke the Foundation wizard, and then that will bring you through the process of getting a data file sent to Foundation for approval. Okay, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and jump into a demo, and I'm going to be brave and do a live demo. So right now, I'm going to open up just a blank document in Excel, and what we're going to do is I'm first going to walk you through a process that you may or may not ever have to encounter, which is toggling on and off the Winshuttle add-in. In my line of work, what I need to have both the 10.x version of transaction and query enabled, and also Studio 11, because certain clients are on different versions of the software, and the add-ins for 10x and the add-in for 11 do not play well together in the sandbox, so they tend to disable each other. So if you ever run into a situation where your add-in is disabled, or you don't see the tab up here in your tabs that are available, basically what that is indicating is that you have the tab has been disabled, or the add-in has been disabled. So what you can do is you come into options and you go to add-ins, and then down at the bottom here in this manage field, you click the drop down, you go to COM add-ins, and you click go. It's going to bring up all your COM add-ins, which is what the Studio add-in is. It's a COM add-in. You can see the Winshuttle Studio add-in, it's unchecked, so if I check that and hit OK, you can see now my Winshuttle Run tab is now available. Now you don't see the Foundation tab because I first have to log in. So the first thing I'm going to do is click the Run, Winshuttle Run, and I'm going to log into Foundation. That's going to pop up a box so that I can put in my credentials. And that'll take a few seconds just to get out to the Foundation site, and so that we can get connected. And once I'm in there, you'll see that my ribbon will expand, and I'll also get my Winshuttle Foundation tab as soon as that loads up. And hopefully we don't have to wait too long to do that. Okay, so now we're logged in, and you can see that just like we saw in the screenshot in the PowerPoint, this is my Foundation login. I can also from here log into SAP if I wanted to, but the first thing I'm actually going to do is I'm going to go ahead and open a data file template, or a data template from the Foundation site for the script that we're going to work with during the demo. So I'm going to come into the Foundation tab. I'm going to click Open, and I'm going to click Open Transaction Data Template. That's going to bring up from my Foundation site a list of templates, and the one that we're going to use for the demo is a process where we're going to obsolete materials in SAP. So I'm going to select that MM02 Obsolete Materials template and Open. And as that loads up, what I'll explain here is that I now have a data template open. So what I would do from here is enter my data into this template, and then I would save this to my desktop, and then go back into the Foundation tab and submit that file for approval, because in our example here, I have to submit a file for approval. The person in charge of approving the file has to review the file and then approve whether or not I can load this data into production. Once they approve it, I'll get a workflow task that will then tell me, okay, Jason, you can go ahead and run this data into SAP production. Once I've done that, I can then click complete on the task, and then the data will be, or I can run the data in, and then click complete. And then my data will be loaded into SAP, and that whole task will be complete. There's other ways, obviously, depending on what your needs are, that you can do things. You can open up an existing file right from your desktop, if you so choose, or if you have a file that you typically work with. You can log into, once you have that file open, you can log into Foundation, and then from this screen, once you have your data file open, you can choose the transaction script that you're going to open. And then you can open that up, and then that transaction script will utilize the open Excel file that you have. So kind of coming at it from the opposite way is basically what we're doing there. Specifying the transaction script into an Excel file that we're already using. So you have the option to do both. It's just how you have the script itself set up and how you want that to work. But typically what I see in my experience is you're going to go out to Foundation like we did and open up a data template. Okay. And now again, if I click the data template button, it's going to show me that this is the script associated with this data template. It's going to show me the Foundation site where I could find that script, and then what the status is. So this script, not the data file, but the script itself, is approved for production use. Okay. And then it's also going to explain to me the data review process, which I mentioned is a review and post separately, which means I have to submit the data file, somebody has to review it and approve it, and then it'll come back to me so that I can post it. And then it's telling me my data file or data template name and where that's located as well. Okay. And then if I click tasks, I don't currently have any tasks, but I will once I submit this and it's approved. So I'll come back in here and go ahead and complete that task. I have my outbox, which we won't be able to see today in this demo because I'm not doing auto post or a single step post, so I'm not going to get any failures here. And then again, if I wanted to submit any supporting documentation with this, I could do that. I'm not going to do that, but I could if I needed to. And then submit the template to Foundation is what I do once I have my data entered in here. We'll come back to our Winshuttle Run tab as soon as we're ready, when we get to the point where we're ready to actually run the data into SAP. What I'm going to do now is, instead of typing a bunch of data in, I'm going to go ahead and open up a pre-made file because that's just going to save me a little bit of time. So I have information or data in this template that I already want to run. And if I come over to Winshuttle, you can see that it's got me logged in, which is great. So I'm ready to submit this file. So I come over to Foundation, and what I want to do is just double check something here. Okay. I think what's best to do right now, because I opened it in the same session and it opened up another one, so I will just copy this, come to my original data template that we opened, paste it in, and now what I'm going to do is submit this file to Foundation. Okay, so the data file I'm submitting is going to be this. We'll just call it something else so we can easily identify it. And we'll use that same description. And here we're submitting it to, it wants to submit it to the data files folder. I actually have another folder that I want to use because I know that that one was giving me problems earlier. So I'm going to submit it to this folder, and then we'll hit next. And then now I'm choosing the options that are available to me. So the way that this script was set up, again, it was a review and post separately. So I'm going to manually run this. And then the data reviewer, we will set up as, you generally pick whoever's in charge of reviewing the files. In this case, I'm going to use this particular user. Hit next. I don't have any supporting documentation to submit with this script or with this data file. So I'm just going to hit next. It's going to summarize all the settings that I had put in. I think all that looks good, so I'm going to hit submit. So now it's submitting this data file out to Foundation to be reviewed, and it's going to create a task for that WSDev user to go out and look at the file and then allow me to run it if they choose to approve it. So I'm going to click OK, and what that's going to typically do is close that file out. And then I actually have my pre-made demo open. So I'm going to close this because I don't need that. Okay. From there, or from here now, I'm going to jump into our Foundation site where I am logged in as the WS user. Okay, so now I'm the approver out in Foundation. I'm going to go to my tasks. I'm going to look at active tasks, and I should see right here that I have a file that I need to review and approve. So what I could have done, if I just go back, or what I can do from here is I can open this file and review the data. I'm not going to do that in this case, just because I know that it's going to act kind of funky because I'm logged in as two different users. So if I try to open this in Excel right now, it's going to give me some issues because I'm logged in as myself within Excel. So what they would typically do, though, is they would click on this link. They could open up the Excel file, review it, make sure everything looked okay, close the file, and then they can come in and either approve or reject it or reassign it. So I'm going to say good to go, approved, task is complete. Okay, so now it says your request has been sent for processing. So that's just going to go through and get processed. And now it's going to create the task for me, my Jason King user, back in Excel to then go ahead and create the, or run the data into Excel. So if I come back into Excel and I go to my tasks, I should now see that I have a task to actually run this file. So if I click on the task, it's going to bring up the details of my task. Okay, so now I can go ahead and open that data file. It'll allow me to open it in Excel. And when it opens that up, you're going to see now when I'm on the Run tab that I can now run it versus just test it. So once this is done fully opening, and hopefully it doesn't stay in read-only mode, I may have to save this to my desktop. Okay, let's go to run. It's in read-only mode, so I think I do have to save this. We'll do a save as to my desktop. Okay, now that I've done that, I can now edit. And we see that my option in the Winshuttle Run tab now has turned to run because this file is now approved. Oh, and it went back to test because I saved it. I think maybe I should not do that. Let's see what happens. Let's close this guy. Just give it a shot. We'll try to run it without saving it as read-only. Maybe through Foundation, it doesn't matter. Okay, so I have my data. They say it looks good, so I can go ahead and run it. So I'm going to click the Run button, which is going to prompt to log into SAP. In this case, I have a auto login saved out on the user governance or the Foundation site, so I'll go ahead and use that. Then I get my production server warning. I'm going to go ahead and click yes. So now it's going through and it's loading the data in SAP. So now we're writing record 1, record 2, writing the log message. Should come back. The run is complete. Both files were, or both lines of data were successful. So that should close out in just a second. And then I'll have changes that were made in SAP. Okay, so it's now closed the file. Okay, and then I can come back to, once that's finished processing, I should now be able to go back into my task and complete it. Okay, we can see our log message, so data was changed. So now I can come back into my task, and actually it brings up the task to complete right here, because now it knows that the data is done. It's been run into SAP and everything worked. So now I can just click complete task. If I wanted to put any comments in, I could go ahead and do that. Hit complete run. Submitted, and now that entire process is complete. And if we come out, if we go out into SAP, we can take a look at this material. And we can see as we walk through here that all the data that I had in here is loaded. So here's my material status and the date. I have my new description. I have the cross distribution chain status and date. And I have my plant specific date and status all set and loaded the way that I wanted it. So the changes were successfully made in SAP. A couple of things that I do want to mention that I didn't really get to show as I went through and just did everything the way it needed to be. So if I was out in our Foundation site, out in the user governance site, I'll just pop back in there as the WS dev, and in settings, if our SAP environment that we used here was not a production environment, so if I edit this, do non-production, actually I can have it in production. What I actually wanted, my bad, what I wanted to show was that if I try to run a template, let's just open that template again. Right here, let's do this. This will work better. Let's go to File, open the one that was not approved. So for example, our pre-made demo here, right? I have my data in here. Did not have this approved yet. Okay, I'm logged in. And I don't have the script open, so I need to just open the script. Once I have that, okay, now we have test. If I try to run this into SAP, it's going to throw an error. It says you can't do this because the production, it's a production server, and I have not submitted this data file to be approved, and it's not approved, so it will not let me run it into SAP because I haven't gone through that whole approval process. So that's why we have to go through the approval process, come into Foundation, and submit that to Foundation. A couple of other things, just as you're working through this run tab, or your Winshuttle run tab, is very similar to the box that we used to have over on the right hand side in 10X. It has all of the same features. It's just laid out in a little bit of a different orientation, more like a Microsoft Office product would be. So you have your backup data, you have your launch GUI, your skip indicator, which you can change. You can specify, to use the start and end row like we have over here, or as selected or as filtered. When I do test, I can test the specified range. I can just have it run, stop things on errors. I can have it do just the first 5 transactions, only unprocessed. When I run this, that's basically going to run anything that does not have a message in the log column. I can do validation, which has pretty much the same options as your test or your run button. Simulate, which again is transaction specific, and then the debug mode, where I can debug this specified range, or I can debug just the first transaction only, just to see what's going on with that particular transaction. As I mentioned before, in the developer settings, we can require a run reason. We can check the option to run only rows, again, that were unprocessed, so rows that do not have a log message. Or we can specify a delay between each transaction if we need to. Now, these developer settings are generally controlled through your user governance site, so even if you are a developer, you may or may not be able to change this within the script, just based upon your settings out in user governance. Some of those things need to be enabled in order to be able to change that from the script or from the add-in itself. Again, we looked at the tasks, so we saw that. We saw what we could do when we go to open a file. And then again, the outbox for us today isn't going to provide anything because we're not going to get an error. So if I open this data template, just wait for that to open up. And once that's open, I'll get my other options here in the Foundation tab. We can walk through that. Again, input files and submit to Foundation. We really did see this already, and I think I did show the options for what data template information and script information do I have with what I have open here. So I think that covers everything as far as how we utilize the Winshuttle add-in. Again, this is typically what most runners would utilize. They work within Excel. You can do a lot of these same things within the Studio product, but most people, because they're entering their data in Excel or they're working with an existing Excel file, they just find it easier to use the add-in for everything. So that's basically all that I had from the demo perspective. There's a couple other things I just want to cover real quick to make sure that people are aware. If you go out to support.winshuttle.com, you can search for any errors you run into. There's a lot of great articles out there for the different errors that people have run into, and also you can get to the product information. And I do have to say that, in my opinion, Winshuttle has great product help information with a lot of specific examples of different features within the product, and I've always been relatively happy with that. If you do have any information or any questions or anything that you run into later on, you can always try this Excel add-in link. That'll take you right to the product help for the Excel add-in and walk you through basically all of the features that we just talked about as well. So with that, I'll kind of open it up. Any questions or anything like that that anybody has, I'll be happy to answer that. Beth, Lance, anybody, do we see any questions out there? Doesn't look like it. Okay. Well, I don't think that we have any questions. At least not that I can see. at this time. So what I'm going to do then is just kind of go over some things that are coming up. So again, all the web tip recordings can be found on the CPS YouTube channel. They're all there and available to view at any time, especially if somebody couldn't make it during the live session today. And the options, or the upcoming events, I should say, that we have. There's the annual Winshuttle User Group Conference in Atlanta coming up in the middle of September. And then we have the Ohio Winshuttle User Group at the end of October, and the Lean Utopia Party afterwards. And if you want to register for any future events or webinars with Clear Process, you just click this link and you can get there. So we also have solution care things that we can offer here, some of the services that we offer. So just give that a look, any possible services you might want to look into. And with that, I think that's pretty much all I have. So I thank everybody for your time. Sorry for the trouble that we had at the beginning, but hope we taught you something as we walk through the Excel add-in for Studio 11. Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing.